Welcome back, everybody, to Two of a Kind.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We're here
What are we
again.
talking about, Dan, today? What are we
So
talking
today we are talking about It Ends With Us and the controversy surrounding that. So we're going to be talking about the book and the movie. The book I haven't read, Gabby's read, and the movie Gabby hasn't seen and I've seen. So I feel like we've got a good kind of balance. And also I feel like a lot of our conversation today is going to be about the marketing and the press interviews that came after It Ends With Us, because that's where the majority of the controversy lies, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh, yeah, it's so interesting. But for anybody who has just seen the film, as much as like the marketing is really, really crazy, the book is and all of the Colleen Hoover lore is just
Mm.
so interesting as well. She's such a we'll get into it.
Do we need to do a trigger warning because we're going to be talking about
Yeah, let's do a
domestic
trigger warning.
violence?
So trigger warning that's for domestic abuse, and sexual assault as well, because both of those
Mhm.
are topics that come up in the books.
Yeah, so that's what the premise of today's episode is going to be. But like I did previously in the first episode, Gabby's got like a intro topic to
Mhm.
get us into the swing of things before we jump into that drama.
Okay. I do want to talk about the topic, but can I first address what you have in your hand there?
Oh,
What
my
is that?
flagon.
Your flagon.
This is like hurting my wrist just to do
Ah.
this.
Yeah, it's just a totally appropriate like drinking utensil. You drinking utensil?
Not a utensil.
What do you call it? Drinking
Drinking,
implement? No. Oh, whatever. It
drinking.
doesn't.
Yeah, it's
I
got a
love
bottle opener at the front.
did that. Oh, that is cool. It must have set you back quite a few half pennies, Dan.
Yeah, it was a threepence or something.
That's
No, it
right.
was 10 galleons.
10 galleons.
Did I tell you about? Sorry, this is such a side note. When I was in year three, that we were talking about, we must have been talking about a book that we were studying, and the class was all sat around and listening to the teacher read from a book. And they mentioned a galleon, and the teacher said, "Oh, does anyone know what a galleon is?" And I just go, "It's money. Like it's like a coin." And like
Mhm.
everyone laughed at me because it's not, it's obviously a ship. But I was just so like Harry Pottered up
Oh.
that I was like, "Oh, it's money." She was like, "No, it's a ship," and everyone laughed at me. Anyway,
No,
that all haunted me.
I'm just picturing you because you were such a shy kid as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Imagine you being like so confident, like I know what it is, and then
Yeah.
being like a little mug. Bless you.
I must have been like 7 or 8.
Really cute.
But yeah, this is not mine. This is Jared's. So it is D&D cup.
I love
Enough said.
I love that he commits to the bit. I love that.
Well, someone's got to. I'm
So,
joking. I'm joking. Yeah,
okay.
it's just weighty, but okay, go ahead.
Let me tell you, Dan, about what I have found for our intro topic. So this came from my coworker. He just mentioned this. It was like 8 a.m. I was tired, and he just leaned across the desk and told me about this. So this year, a group of Japanese and American scientists won this year's, so it's called the IG Nobel Prize. So instead of like it being a normal Nobel Prize, it's like strange and unusual discoveries of the year. So that's what the IG Nobel Prize is. So these Japanese and American scientists won the IG Nobel Prize for finding out that mammals can breathe through their anuses.
What mammals?
I think
What do you mean mammals?
most mammals. That includes
We're
us.
mammals.
Yes, correct.
How did they
I
find
know.
this out? Who's
I
doing
know.
research for that? And they not got
Excellent
better things to do,
question.
like solving cancer and stuff.
Excellent question.
Curing
Although
cancer.
that was my reaction. And then my coworker was like, well, actually, when you think about it, like imagine your lungs collapse and you're struggling to breathe. They can,
No, you're not telling me that you're going to be able to breathe out your asshole.
I
No.
think so. Or there's a way to do it. I think it's not going to be as easy as breathing through your mouth and your lungs, but there's a way
Really.
to do it. Okay, thanks, Dan. But
So
yeah,
like next time I'm having like an asthma attack, I just like, and it's really not my asthma pump isn't working, for my lungs. I just
yep.
give it a quick rinse after. Good to go.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
This is crazy. So
I
did they
know.
find out, like, is it definitely like humans are included among those mammals?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure, although I didn't read the full article because science stuff goes like right over my head. But I'm pretty sure most mammals. Okay, so let's move on from my stupid topic. Um,
It wasn't stupid, it was very interesting. I also want to know, what does IG stand for? The IG Awards.
I don't know. I
What,
couldn't find it when I searched for it, but I didn't search that hard. So
so great.
yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Sorry.
Amazing. Thank you. And that's it.
That's it. That's it.
Do you want me to just tell you kind of what I know?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me what you know about the book.
Which is very little. I know how popular it was becoming, and I know that it was all over my TikTok For You page. A lot of TikTok books I'll read because I'll see that they're popular and go, "Oh, I'll give it a try." Something about it, I don't know. I didn't even read the blurb or anything. I think it might have been because it's just not fantasy, and I'm not interested unless it's fantasy. But I had to stop our mother from buying the book because she was like, "Oh, I've heard about this book. That's interesting."
I
Do you
didn't know
remember?
your mum. No. Oh, it ends with us or one of
Yeah,
Colin Hoover's.
because she was going to borrow my Prime and like use my Prime and order it for herself. I said,
How did
"Ma, don't waste your time."
how did she hear about it?
Maybe on like, I feel like it would have been on daytime TV. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh my God. That
Yeah.
the anger I have for the popularity of that book can't be described. So it follows Lily Blossom Bloom, who is the protagonist, and she's a young woman who is just opening her first business. She's opening a flower shop, and it's the romance between her and the male lead. I would say Ryle is the male lead, but there is
Yeah.
also a love triangle with a man from her past as well. And as you read the book, Ryle slowly becomes more and more abusive, and it's Lily's journey dealing with domestic violence and abuse and how to escape it and how to deal with it. So that's the basic story of It Ends With Us. I'm going to get into some of the reasons I don't like it because I really, really don't like this book. I think it's not very well written. I don't think that the heavy topics of domestic violence are dealt with very well. Um, it's not a very thoughtful book, in my opinion, when dealing with domestic violence. So when you read the book, Ryle is very clearly a red flag. He's aggressive, he's pushy, he crosses her boundaries quite often. One of the scenes that I know wasn't in the film then, that is just so gross, is before they're even in a relationship, he comes to her door and like gets on his knees and like begs her to have sex with him. Like genuine, like I'm pretty sure he says, please, please have sex with me, like have sex with me, please. Like he's begging on his knees to
Yikes.
sleep with her. Yeah, it's
Right.
gross. He's really, really pushy.
Mhm.
There's a scene where they're at a party and she wants to she says that she doesn't want to sleep with him. She's interested in him, but she's like, I don't want to just have a one night stand with you. I'm not that kind of person. And he's like, okay, fine, let's just sleep in the same bed. And
That
she's
happens in the
like,
movie.
okay. It does happen in the movie.
Hmm.
What he also does in that scene is when he says to her, let's just sleep in the same bed, he just looks at her and just takes her dress off. Just takes her dress off. And she's like left there stood in her underwear. And she's like, okay, I guess I'm naked now. And then he gets in bed with her. But it's like he barely knows her and he's just removed her clothing
Hmm.
to put her to bed. It's very like pushy and violent and like I'm gonna do what I want without thinking about what you want. It's very much like she's almost like a rag doll and he can do whatever he wants to her.
Like from the offset.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, he's like that. And then as their relationship progresses, it progresses into like physical violence
Mhm.
and later sexual violence as well from his
Yeah.
end.
I also knew from my friend Jess, who I went to cinema with, who had read the book, that she has the main character, Lily Blossom Bloom, which let's not even get into that,
Yeah.
has a big fixation with Ellen DeGeneres, which is
Yeah.
the most bizarre thing ever that is a really strange thing to add in your book?
So I'm glad you touched on that Ellen thing because that's a really interesting part of the book. The Ellen stuff comes in because the book goes between modern day Lily and teenage Lily when she's meeting Atlas as a
Mhm.
teenager. Because Lily is going back and rereading her diary. But in the book, young Lily didn't want to write a diary because she thought it was too cringe. So instead, she was writing letters to Ellen in the form of a diary.
Or less cringe. That's
Yeah.
less cringe.
I know, I
Yeah,
know,
I write her letters to Ellen.
I know, I know.
Way less.
Then modern day Lily is rereading those letters because of the events of the book. You know, Atlas has come back into her life and everything that's going on. She's rereading those books. So that's where the Ellen stuff comes in. There's that whole thing that her and Atlas say to each other a lot, which is just keep swimming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they say that to each other when they're teenagers and they say it again to each other when they're adults.
Really realistic dialogue there from the author.
Don't talk. The whole thing is just so unrealistic. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that you almost read it because of TikTok, because that's why I read it, because I love to be a hater, but I hate being a hypocrite. So if I'm gonna hate something, I have to know about it and make up my own mind and not be proven wrong. So I was like, I'll read it. I'll read it. It's everywhere. If something's popular, chances are it has some kind of merit. No, not true. Zero merit. I can't give that book any credit really at all. It's horribly written. It's like a teenager wrote this book, and I don't understand, and that's fine. I just don't understand why it's so popular. So one of my favorite YouTubers, her name is Alizi, she pointed out that, and I think this is one of the big reasons I hate the books, is that it's a book about domestic violence.
Right.
So you were expecting the male lead to be problematic, to show dangerous behaviors, to act in a way that's uh, on track with somebody who's abusive. But the problem is that you could interchange Ryle, the main lead, with almost any of her other male leads in any of her other books. The only difference is that Ryle actually hits the female
Right.
character, but the controlling behavior, the aggressive behavior, the not taking no for an answer, the playing jump rope with consent is just consistent across all of her work.
That's so interesting. So it's
I
just like
know.
she has one prototype for a male lead or
Yeah.
character in a book, and she just copy and pastes
Yeah.
throughout.
Another reason I think that it's written like a teenager is almost all of the circumstances of the book are like, what a coincidence that this happened. Like, well, first of all, the fact that she meets Ryle on that rooftop, the
Yeah.
fact that the woman whose name I have forgotten who decides to work in the shop for free. Have
I don't know her character's name, but it's played by Jenny Slate, right?
That's her. That woman then decides, oh, I'm rich and I'm going to come and work in your shop for
Yeah,
free.
yeah, yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that about?
No idea. No
And
idea.
then it turns out who's her brother?
Yeah.
Lyle. And then they go to that restaurant and it happens to be Atlas's restaurant. It's just, it's the way a teenager would write. Like, there's no realism at all. There's no sense of like real world building or real understanding of how situations and structures might happen. It's like, I want it to happen, so it's happening. Like, it's like a teenager would write fanfic.
I just think that would be fine if it didn't have the domestic violence themes and if it was just not marketed, but was a book about something light-hearted and was for like was a YA book for young adults. That would be
Mhm.
fine because you're not expecting, super complex plot lines and character development in that sort of a book. But it's not. It's about domestic violence, it's about serious themes. So take the time to maybe write a realistic plot and something that's, or just don't I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, you're so right, Dan, and I'm glad you said that because a lot of her books deal with some kind of serious issue.
Mm.
Most of her books are dealing with something like miscarriages and things like that. Uh, and they're handled poorly almost every single time.
Mm.
So yeah, you're right. I think It Ends With Us is a slight improvement on
Oh,
some of her other books, but that's not saying much.
mhm,
Um, so basically, we're watching this domestic abuse relationship happen from meeting to its end, because it does end with her ultimately
mhm,
deciding, no, I'm not going to be with you because you're violent and aggressive, and that's the right decision for me. And through the process of the book, I've come to understand that I can't change you, because that's a big way that she feels for a lot of the book, is that she's thinking, um, I can help him change, this is a problem for us to deal with together. His violent behavior is something that, because they're married, and she feels like it's a problem they can deal with
mhm,
together. Um, and that's a big theme from the very beginning. One of the first things he ever says to her is that there are no bad people, we all there's no such thing as a bad person, we all just do bad things. And she thinks about that a lot. Um, and that sets up a lot of her thinking and one of the reasons she stays. Now, the way I've described it doesn't really make the book sound that bad. You think, oh, um, it sounds like Colleen Hoover has done a decent job with
mhm.
showing a relationship about domestic abuse. One of the many things that I really don't like about the way that it's displayed is that it's the way that it deals with her internal monologue whilst she's thinking about. There's a lot of victim blaming, and while a lot of it could, if it was written by a better writer, I would say, oh, she's genuinely showing the way that victims feel. They blame themselves. I don't think that's the case. And that's because I have read some of her other work and I know what she's like. And it's also the way, there's one line that really stuck out to me that really annoyed me. It's very early on where Lily is looking at her relationship with her mother, because a big part of the book, and the reason it's called It Ends With Us, is that her mother went through an abusive relationship with her father. Lily goes through an abusive relationship with the main male lead, Ryle. And then when she has a daughter, she's like, no more. It won't happen with my child, which is where the title comes from. It Ends With Us. But my problem comes with the way her mother's abusive relationship is shown. There's one line where Lily says that she feels like she's just as bad as her dad, because as a child, she didn't stop any of the abuse. And that really annoyed me, because there's one thing to show a victim's like brain being like, oh, I blame myself, I blame myself. And then throughout the text, disprove this. But that's something that she never does. She has a lot of victim blaming, and then she doesn't like undo those patterns.
Right, okay.
It's very frustrating. And also, anybody who's ever read any other Colleen Hoover book will know that Ryle's behavior, the way he's abusive and aggressive, you'd think, oh, she's showing the way that abusive men behave, but he's just like that because
Mm,
that's how she writes men. And I'll show my work for that, because Colleen Hoover said about Ryle, she said before that she fell in love with him when she was writing him, and she wanted to change the story. She didn't want him to be abusive because she really liked him. And he's aggressive and forceful and pushy from the offset.
yeah.
So it's not like
I
she was
just
like having this process of like, I'm going to write an abusive man. She wrote
mm,
a man because that's how she writes men. Then she made him abusive.
I think I don't want to come off as a hater because I actually haven't read the book. So I feel like anything I say, take it with a pinch of salt because obviously, like, just from face value and hearing stuff about it, it's like, oh, it's actually maybe a good message behind it because they are breaking the cycle and yada, yada, yada. But I think for me, from the little that I do know about the book, the
Mhm.
fact that it's so cheesy and there's weird references to like Ellen and certain choices and like the fact that it's so on the nose with the main character being called Lily Blossom Bloom and owning a flower shop, it
Yeah.
leaves a bad taste for me because it's like you're dealing with such sensitive, serious themes, and yet you're choosing to make it light-hearted and almost like cheesy and tongue-in-cheek. And yeah, surely if you're going to write a book about such strong and serious themes, yeah, you should maybe make a bit more effort with the fucking characters' names and the plot lines and, you know. in my opinion anyway. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I agree. And I think yeah, it reads like a teenager wrote it for adults, which is a really, really weird because
Mm,
I think teenagers should be reading about. I don't think that her books are aimed at teenagers, is the point. I think they
they're
are
not. They're
adults.
not.
I just feel like also the book is just far too forgiving towards Ryle. He's
Mm,
a violent monster, and they're like, oh, he just gets in rages and I can't be with you, but you can still hang out with the baby. And I'm like, I'm
mm,
sorry. I think from what I've seen about the film, again, I haven't seen it, but what I've seen about the film, I think that they have made an improvement on,
yeah.
yeah. I do want to say Colleen Hoover wrote this book based on her own experiences. Uh,
Mm, I didn't know
she,
that.
yeah, she had I think she's talked about it that her father was abusive. I'm not sure to what extent, or at least her
Mm,
mother had an abusive relationship. So it is based on her own experiences. And I will say It Ends With Us is slightly better than her other works. It deals
mm.
with the issue with a little bit more grace than other books, where she's dealt with issues horribly. Um, but I still think it's not a good depiction of domestic abuse. And I just think it's a really badly written book.
I mean, it's awful that that happened to her. It's good that she has feels strong enough to be able to write about it. But I just think when you've got such a platform and you know
Mhm.
that she's huge, like everyone reads all of her books on
Yeah,
TikTok. She's been going
yeah,
viral. Like, anyway, it doesn't even matter if only a small majority of people are writing it. When you're writing about such serious topics, and especially going through it yourself, you understand just how serious they are.
yeah,
Do it with a bit more grace,
yeah,
potentially. It's coming from
yeah.
someone who hasn't read it, you know, from what I've heard. Do we want to read your Goodreads review, or are we leaving that?
I forgot about this because I was seething when I finished the book because it was so famous and I was like, there has to be some merit, and there was just no merit. That I read it a couple of years ago and I left a scathing Goodreads review. Yeah, go,
Shall
you can read it. You can read it.
we- Okay, 1 star, by the way, which is not what the majority say on Goodreads. I think it's given a 4.6.
Don't.
Um, I wrote it. No, 4.1 on Goodreads. Um, so this puts it just into perspective. A 4.1 puts it among the likes of 1984 and Pride and Prejudice, just to give you some perspective.
So mad. You
Um,
just made me, and you've taken me right back. I'm just as angry as I was when I wrote this review.
so lesson learned, don't go on Goodreads, see that a book has gotten 4.1 and go, yes, 100%, this is, anyway, so this is Gabby's review. This isn't a good book, full stop. I don't want to be callous. It clearly resonated with a lot of people. Perhaps it simply wasn't written for me. But really, 4.5 stars average. It's a bad book. It's mindlessly simplistic. The kind of plot a 14-year-old would come up with. I finished it, but only because it might be the easiest book I've ever read. Good grief. This should have stayed on Wattpad where it clearly came from. The author's lack of understanding of realistic dialogue and inability to accurately represent human relationships is only surpassed by children playing with dolls. It's often said that nothing is without merit. This book proves that wrong. Its popularity is a cruel trick that the universe is playing on me, worse than 50 Shades of Grey, minus 10 out of 10. I will now have to go back to school as I lost brain cells reading it.
I stand by that review.
You do.
I do. If it hadn't been for how damaging I think her depiction of women and her depiction of relationships and toxic men are, then I would say, everybody can enjoy a little bit of trash,
Yeah,
it's okay to enjoy
100%.
trash. But I just, oh, it's so awful. I cannot. Can we move on to the movie?
We'll move on to the movie. I feel like the majority of the conversation after the movie is going to be about marketing and like the press and what's happened since the release of the movie, because that's my bread and butter, celebrity drama.
Mhm.
That is my favorite thing. I mean, it says a lot about me as a person,
No, it
but I eat
doesn't.
it up.
No, I've also enjoyed this drama. It has been interesting.
Mm, to say the least, yeah. Can I just start with saying something lighthearted about the movie because there's nothing lighthearted about the theme in general. You know that scene you just mentioned in the book where they go to that party and then they head home. He wants to sleep with her. She says, "I don't sleep with people after, I want to be in a relationship. I want it to be serious." And they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll just sleep in a bed together." And you said he takes their dress off. That doesn't happen. But I think they're at his house, his apartment,
Mhm.
and they both put pajamas on. I think he just puts pajama pants on, and then he gives her the pajama shirt because it's huge. So
Mhm.
she puts the pajama shirt on. I think she leaves like a little top on underneath so she doesn't get fully naked. And the thing that was like jokingly on TikTok, like everyone was having an uproar about. So she's wearing fishnet tights
Mhm.
underneath her, like she's wearing like boots or something and like a dress. And she leaves them on and just puts the pajama shirt on and gets into bed and she sleeps in fishnet tights.
Huh. That's certainly a choice.
And it's like, I literally remember turning to my friend and being like, what woman sleeps in fishnet tights? Those things are so fucking uncomfortable. There's not a chance that, not an important topic at all. I just thought there was something of note that was like
Mhm.
weird. Like, can you imagine your little toes like popping out through the little, that's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's really, really uncomfortable.
You have indentation on your leg the whole
That's a
night,
weird one where they probably just didn't want to film her taking them off. I bet that's why.
Well, it was probably Blake Lively's choice because, as we know, every single choice in the movie was Blake Lively's choice.
Oh
Um,
boy.
I'm just going to talk about like leading into the drama stuff about the movie. So we know it was Justin Baldoni's production company who were the ones who produced the movie, and that's Wayfarer Studios. And then Sony bought the rights to it, so they had the power over the marketing of the movie. And
I
I
see.
think that the main reason there's so much drama and a feud between, because if anyone doesn't know, there's two opposite camps. There's Justin Baldoni, who plays Ryle, the lead in the movie, and there's everyone else. That's it. He's on his own, and then there's the entire cast of It Ends With Us, and Colleen Hoover, the author, and Blake Lively, and everyone else. And there's a big clash and a feud between them. The main thing I also wanted to talk about is the fashion in the film.
Oh yeah.
Everyone
I've seen the pictures.
Well, yeah, the photos are look. And for someone who is Blake Lively, when people think of her, obviously they think of Gossip Girl first. But
Yes.
secondly, they're going to think everyone knows her for her iconic looks at the Met Gala, and she's like friends with all these like supermodels, like the likes of like Gigi Hadid, like all the big fashion supermodels. She's a fashion icon.
She's
So
from Taylor Swift, right? As well.
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. She's really, really close to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. I think her one of Taylor Swift's songs is named after one of their kids.
Oh wow.
Am I wrong? Oh God. I'm almost certain. Betty?
You know me, I don't know anything about Taylor Swift.
Anyway, that's besides the point. There's been loads of interviews that Blake Lively has done where she's mentioned like, oh, the interviewer said something like, oh, well, the fashion and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, that's me. That's me. Those boots are mine. Those boots are mine. Yeah, that was all me. That was my fashion. I did. People are really not happy with the fashion because they're like, that is not how it was depicted in the movie, in the book, sorry.
No. Lily is supposed to be quirky, and I think
Yeah,
that's why we've now gotten this Lily. Is because she went, oh, what's quirky? And she's done her definition
layering.
of what she thinks. Yeah. It's it's not like that in the books. But I mean, she also doesn't go into such full detail. I mean, she doesn't describe because I mean the outfits that Blake Lively is wearing, you'd have to take a full page to describe that if
Yeah,
Lily's wearing that in the book. Um,
true.
I think that it's hard because also the appearance of Lily is so different in the book because I think she's 24, 23, 24.
It doesn't make much sense for a 24-year-old to be like, oh, I've got enough funds to just open my own shop. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this makes more sense that Blake Lively is depicting an older version of Lily, maybe. And the
Yeah.
same with Ryle. Like, how long does it take to get through medical school? Like, how much older is he
Oh,
than
not
Lily
just
in the
medical
book?
school, the medical school then. He's a brain surgeon.
Well, yeah.
That's like he's
All
supposed
24-year-olds are brain surgeons. What are you talking about?
no, he's supposed to be 29. But
Oh,
somebody did
okay.
no, but somebody worked out the timeline. You cannot become a neurosurgeon um in that time. You would have to be early 30s.
Fuck
It's not
me.
it's not possible for Ryle to have the
Didn't think
qualifications
that.
that he has.
Mm.
Colleen Hoover's has come out and said, yeah, I didn't do the research. Sorry, it's wrong. He's too,
Oh,
yeah. She said she
serious?
made a mistake. Yeah, she said she made a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it shows. But yeah, the main reason I want to mention the wardrobe is because that's the first sign of like Blake Lively having her hand in everything in this movie. Because
Mhm.
it's like, surely there's a wardrobe department. But when she's saying like, yeah, that's mine, they used like all of my real life clothes. It's like, okay, well, doesn't look good. So what,
So now you've put that directly on yourself.
so I don't know if you know much about Ryan Reynolds' involvement in the movie, do you?
I did hear that he kind of took over a little bit.
I liked Blake Lively because I was such a big fan of Gossip Girl. Loved it.
I forget that you watched Gossip Girl and you
Love
like a lot of her films, don't you?
like one of her films.
I thought you liked the one, the Adeline one, and the
Oh, I do
one,
like that movie.
yeah, and the one where she plays the woman in the,
Simple Favor.
yes, that's the one.
So I loved Gossip Girl and I love Penn Badgley now. Do you like Penn Badgley? What are your thoughts?
That's the guy from
You know,
You, right?
it's the You guy, yeah.
I don't care about him. Sorry,
Oh,
Dan.
he's got a podcast and he just really articulates himself well and he's very like
Oh,
endearing.
okay.
So I really like him. That's a side note. But
Mhm.
and also, yeah, I love A Simple Favor because she is
I know you have a crush on her.
in that movie. I think everyone has a crush on her. But
She's,
like
yeah, she's beautiful and she's cool as well.
I love tall women and she's
Yeah.
tall and she's like dressed up in little tweedy little suits with like she has like fucking cufflinks and all that. It's like,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah,
kidding
she's
me?
beautiful,
Very
she's
like, oh
cool, she's
my
confident, she's
God,
a little bit bitchy in that film as well, which is
she's a
hot.
psycho.
Yes,
All the green flags. But
I get
what
it.
let's
She's
we're
hot.
jumping around. Ryan Reynolds, his involvement in the movie. So she said Blake Lively, being she, in an interview, she was like, nobody actually knows this. My husband actually rewrote the iconic rooftop scene, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's a really, really important scene where Ryle and Lily first meet.
Hmm.
That scene was written before the writers' strike. So, like, what do you mean he rewrote the scene? He took the script off all the writers, and she's also snubbing the writers in saying that a little bit, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And it's just so confusing because it's like, then there was an interview where Justin Baldoni was like, "Oh, I didn't know that, but whatever." He added, "It's wonderful." Blah blah blah. Obviously, he just
He,
wants to keep
he's a,
peace.
he's a class act, in my opinion.
Me too. Yeah, I
And
agree with
again,
that.
I don't, in the same breath, I want to say I don't know celebrities very well.
So we don't. Yeah.
From what I've seen of Justin Baldoni, I've liked him.
And we haven't mentioned he's the director of the movie. So he stars in the movie as the lead, opposite Blake Lively, but he also directed the movie. I did say that it was his production team who started it. It was like a passion project for him. He,
Mhm.
well, supposedly read the book and it was really something that he felt it was important to be a part of and wanted to. Anyway, don't know if you know about this, but I'm sure you do, that Blake Lively, commissioned a cut of the film by Shane Reed, who is the same editor who worked on Deadpool and Wolverine. He's also worked on Taylor Swift videos, or maybe just the one, I'm not sure. Um, so she had her own cut of the movie done.
So which
And
cut did we get? Which cut did audiences get?
this is the thing, no one actually knows how much of Blake's cut made it into the actual movie.
Oh,
Well, we won't know. And it's just like, how did the editor get the footage? I don't know. Is it just because they've got huge names? They don't want to go against the Lively Reynolds? Because
no.
I just don't understand because it's like she's just completely stepping on Justin Baldoni's toes,
Yeah.
trying to take the movie from him and make it her own, and seemingly, from what we know, for no reason and just because she wanted to. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Um, I think maybe she believes she should have like an executive producer credit because she's the biggest star in the movie.
Yeah.
She should have maybe she thinks she should have an executive producer role and is just like acting as if she's got that role despite not having it.
Yeah. It seems like an ego thing either way.
It does. And have you seen the two different posters that were
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so one his Justin Baldoni's and one was Blake Lively's,
Mhm.
and they just depict two completely different movies.
I
And
know.
again, this is the marketing. It's
It's,
just like misleading.
I know. And it's not just misleading, it's they're completely different
Mhm.
views and outlooks on how you should act when you're starring in, creating, and marketing a film about domestic violence.
Mhm.
Should you go on daytime TV and talk about how important it was for you to include women's views and how important it was for you to get this right and how much you want women to who are in this situation to look at this film and look at their own lives and you want to help women? Should you flit around and giggle and not take it seriously? Who's to say which one is the right one to do, you know?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're exactly right. And like, I think a lot of people would have been misled and gone into the movies thinking that it's going to be like because she said famously in that interview, grab your florals and your girlfriends and go and watch the movie.
Imagine you're somebody who is or has been in a domestic violence
Mhm.
situation. Maybe you're an older woman, so you don't spend much time on the internet. You don't know much about this. You've just seen a floral poster and you've seen Blake Lively prancing around. You go into the cinema thinking that you're going to go see a rom-com or a rom drama. And you
Mhm.
go there and you sit there, and every single feeling that you have felt in your previous relationship comes right back up to the surface, right in front of you, because you had no idea what this was going to be about. Now, if the poster had been different and the marketing had been different, maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
At
100%.
the end of the day, for me, I'm just really angry about the lack of introspection about this. This isn't a joke. This isn't
No,
some fun game where you get to prance around. It's serious, and it worries me that they don't understand that.
they're well-versed actors as well they're not new to fame and to acting and to
Yeah.
dealing with heavy scripts. I'm sure they've both been in movies that have dealt with really heavy topics
Mhm.
previously. They're not new to, they're also like for in their 40, well, Justin Baldoni's 40, Blake Lively's 38 or something, 36, something.
I don't
Like
know.
she's got children as well. It's not anyway. So obviously when we started talking about like the different camps, we were saying how there's Blake Lively on one side and Baldoni on the other.
Mhm.
There was a TMZ article that came out after the film came out saying that Blake Lively said that she felt the kissing scenes lingered too long.
I
Uh,
I I saw this.
yeah, and that she also felt fat shamed by Justin
I
Baldoni because there
I
was a
saw
scene.
that one too. I know what this is about, and I'm really mad about it on
Well,
Baldoni's
yeah,
behalf.
he said that so he has to lift her up in one of the scenes. And Justin Baldoni has a history of back injury. So before lifting her, he asked his on-set trainer how to like properly train so that he could lift her correctly. And she took it as being fat shamed. And like, I can understand if we don't know, we weren't there, so we don't know what happened.
Is that not the opposite of fat shaming though? Instead of saying you need to lose weight, it's like how can I accommodate your weight?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know.
It made me really, really angry because what it feels like is that she knows what her name pulls and what
Mm,
she can do. Like she knows that how famous she is and beloved she is in the public eye. So I think that unfortunately that does something to your brain where you're like, I can do whatever I want, and any perceived slights, I am the victim because I am up here. So anything anybody does to me is a problem because I'm so great in the center of attention and can do no wrong. That's the
mhm.
impression that I get. And that's why it's so damaging to put celebrities all the way up here.
Yeah. But we all do it.
True.
Um, yeah, the other bits of like press or like marketing that we were going to talk about was the Betty Booze event that she threw. Betty Booze is her alcohol brand.
Oh,
Betty
right.
after a child, if I'm not mistaken. And also that's the song I mentioned that's Taylor Swift's song called
Right,
Betty.
right, right.
The Betty Booze, and then there's Betty Buzz, which is her just like sparkling water or something. I don't know,
Okay.
like it's non-alcoholic or something. So Betty Buzz is the alcoholic one. They threw it like a collaborative event, Blake Lively's company, Betty Buzz, and Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us, and they had like cocktail, like a menu of cocktails, like called like there was one called Ryle You Wait, based on obviously like the Ryle character,
Oh my
and it's like,
God.
and it's like again a movie on domestic violence. Oh, what'll be a good marketing idea? Let's put my brand. Let's do alcohol. Let's do an alcohol brand and choose that to represent our domestic violence movie.
Isn't Ryle drunk in a lot of the incidents where he abuses her as well?
Yeah, probably.
Zero introspection, or not just introspection,
Humility, like
zero media zero thought, just this will be fun. It's not a game. Oh,
and like, sorry, it's not funny. So I was watching H3 and because I'm the biggest H3 fan, and I think it was AB who said this. He was like, they were talking about the drinks menu at this event,
mhm.
and he was like, oh yeah, underneath it, it would say, this one really packs a punch. Because that's just how tone deaf they all are, and that's the
Yeah,
sort of thing they
yeah.
write because, you know, not funny, but like,
No, it
yeah,
is
and
funny. We're not laughing at domestic abuse. We're laughing
no,
at the way that these people are so tone deaf
yeah.
whilst like dealing with domestic abuse stuff. It makes me so mad.
And the fact that Blake Brown Beauty, which is Blake
Um,
Lively's hair care brand, came out and was released the week that the movie came out. Because of course, why wouldn't you?
yeah,
Like, it's just like all of it is a cash grab. It's
yeah.
all a cash
I
grab.
know. I know.
It's all got really bad reviews though because everyone's livid about what's been happening
Oh, the
recently.
hair care or the film has got bad reviews.
The well, no, the hair care, the hair care.
Oh,
Which yeah, she's known for her hair. Like it's iconic, but also it's iconic for being frizzy and crazy.
mhm.
I like it. I think it looks great, her hair, but like
Yeah,
it's
I
just the fact that it was released the same week. And the last thing we were going to talk about was the fact that they were going to release an It Ends With Us coloring book,
oh,
which they ended up not releasing in the end because Colleen Hoover issued an apology on her Instagram, I think, just saying that she realized it was tone deaf. But it's like, okay, you realize that was tone deaf, but not everything. Like, what was the coloring book going to be depicting?
I know.
What was it going to be like?
I don't.
The nail polish did come out though.
It did.
It
Mm.
did. The nail polish did come out, and it's like, what are the color? What are the shades going to be?
Purple for
You know?
bruises, red for blood. The thing that makes me mad is these people come out and say, "Oh, I've realized." You didn't realize. You were told. And that's the
Mm,
problem, is that you can't think with your brain about why this might be a problem.
like she said when releasing or when she issued her apology, Colleen Hoover.
Mhm.
This is Colleen Hoover, by the way. This isn't Blake Lively. These two particular things, the nail polish and the coloring book, are
Yeah.
the authors. She
Yes.
said the coloring book was developed with Lily's strength in mind.
Isn't that convenient?
Um, yeah. And did you also see that Ryan Reynolds did an interview with Brandon Skellner,
Yes.
who is the another love interest, the one who's in the love triangle with his wife Blake Lively and Lily's character. Lily's character? Did that the other way around. You know what I mean?
I know what you
And
mean.
he was like trying to be combative and like, oh, I'm the funny, jealous husband, and you're my wife's co-star in a movie. And it's like, again, do we
Tone deaf.
need this? Like, I
It
just
is.
think,
It's completely tone deaf, and it's a reminder of how removed these people are from what real life looks like. So it's
mhm,
like, Tiki, I'm making a movie, and like, yeah, someone gets hit, but I want to make some money on my hair care, and I want to like put my silly little personality on screen. And if you had any kind of understanding of the real world or what it's like to actually be a person in this situation, you would never behave like that. But you
yeah,
don't, and you don't care to know. Because if you cared to know, you would have done the research before, like Justin Baldoni. And that's the difference, is that Justin Baldoni, well, I don't want to assume he's never been in this situation, but the way that he talks, it seems like he did a lot of research
mm,
in a lot of women to be around him when he was directing, writing, every step of the way, to make sure that he was going in a right direction and not going through like the lens of somebody who completely doesn't understand. And
Mhm.
when he talks about it, you can tell that he is doing it from a very careful, like, viewpoint of someone who's really tried to empathize.
Mhm.
And that's what makes me so mad, is that this is fucking serious. And if you want to go make a romantic comedy, go make that. Go make one of
Exactly.
those.
Like, I think the point we both want to make is that we're not just like getting angry for no reason. Like, if they were doing a romantic comedy or like just a comedy and also released, your alcohol brand that week or did a collab with a hair care brand, doesn't matter. It's fine. It just read the room because Deadpool and Wolverine was released at a similar time. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to do a Barbenheimer sort of experience and make sure that those movies were the highest grossing that they could have been, that they blew the box office out the park, which annoyingly they actually did, which is no surprise because by very nature of having those two big celebrities in them, they're going to be. But
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't know, I
And
just,
when the source material is as massive as it is.
mhm,
But the last thing I want to say is that for anybody who is watching this and has not read the book or watched the film, and maybe you don't get why both of us are so upset about the way, the callous and the tone deaf way that Blake Lively and Colleen Hoover have been behaving. In this book, Ryle beats her multiple times. He tries to sexually assault her. He pushes her down the stairs. I think there are other incidents. It's horrifying to read. I can only imagine it's more horrifying to watch. And considering that a lot of people who will go and see that film will have had some kind of encounter like
mhm.
that, it is disgusting to behave that way when you're involved with this film. It's just,
Mm.
it makes me really angry.
I think what's also kind of interesting to me is how, I mean, you've spoken about how graceful, Justin Baldoni was in all his interviews after,
Mm.
and like continued to be and act that way towards Blake Lively too, and saying, yeah, there was a few subtle digs where maybe it wasn't even a subtle dig. He was talking about directing the movie, and then someone mentioned because there's a sequel to It Ends With Us called It Starts With Us
Mhm.
that is going to be produced as well by, I don't know if it's the same company or whatever. But they're going to work on a second movie, and it follows, from what I know, Lily's life with her child. So I don't think Ryle is going to be a big part of it. And an interviewer asked Baldoni, "Are you going to be directing the next one?" And he said, "I think there's better people to do that, like Blake. I think Blake's time for her to direct the movie." And like people saw that as a dig, but I think no, he's just being kind. It makes sense that because his character's not going to be in it, he's going to step away from it. Also, probably from this experience, he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore, which
I
I don't
wouldn't.
blame him.
No.
But he's just been so graceful with everything. He said that he said multiple times, everything she touched, she made better. She had a hand in everything, but he didn't say it in like a nasty way, like she was overstepping. He just said that she really wanted to be a part of every aspect of the movie, which is a really nice thing to say about your co-star. So I don't know why all the cast have unfollowed him and why no one's on his side,
No.
but
The only thing I can say is that I can't judge what I haven't seen, so I can only judge what I have seen. So I'm not going to speculate on any of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, but from the behavior around the marketing, I know who I think is still decent and who I think
mm.
isn't.
And we're not completely saying the other people are like the worst people on the planet. We just don't like the way they went about this.
And they're out of touch, which is fair
They're
to say.
out of touch.
Mhm.
That's fair to say. We're not saying we hate Blake Lively. We just don't like the way she operated and did.
Speak for
I
yourself.
just
I
think,
hate Blake Lively. No.
oh, sorry, you do. Um, did you see as well? So just to kind of, as we're coming to an end,
Mhm.
something that I like that, again, that Justin Baldoni said in an interview, whenever we see women in domestic violence relationships, the question always is, why did you stay or why didn't you leave? When the question we should be asking is, why did the man harm?
So true. So true.
So, so good.
That's such a simple way of framing exactly how we should be looking at this.
Mhm.
Yeah, why is it, why did you stay? There's never blame. That's a subtle way of like shifting the narrative, like, well, what didn't you do then? It's like, it shows that he understands, I think.
Mm.
So
And I think as much as there's been so much drama and controversy to do with the book and the movie, and like, yeah, yes, we're talking about it and we're saying about all these things that are kind of that we don't like about it.
mhm.
If it helped you and if it helped spread the message
Yeah,
and inspired some people or gave them hope,
yeah.
then at the end of the day, all of this stuff doesn't matter.
I
Because if it did that, then, it's done its job. And
I
that's a positive force from it.
I do want to say, as nice as you've been, I genuinely hate Colleen Hoover. I think she's awful. I genuinely hate her. I think she's
Well, that's because you've read the book. So,
terrible. Nobody read her stuff. Okay, there are better books, I promise.
yeah, Twilight's on the shelves. Why are you buying Colleen Hoover when you can
Okay,
just
all
go and
right,
buy
that's not. All right. Well, thank you, anybody who listened to our episode. I hope if you have never seen It Ends With Us, that you don't touch it ever because it's not worth your time.
and go and watch Jane the Virgin starring Justin
Yes,
Baldoni.
I love Jane the Virgin.
I've literally never even seen it myself, so I don't know why I'm saying that, but like one of my best friends was obsessed with it, so I've seen enough of it to know.
It's a little bit of fun. It's not, it's very like soapy with the dramas and the romance. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
All right. Sayonara, everyone.
yeah. We'll see you on the next one.